All right, Combine props dropped last night on Prize Picks and Underdog. We're going to get to a few of our favorites. These might be outdated by the time we get them to air. But, Pete, what do you got for us?
I'm trying to remember which one I put down here.
I see Mike stole mine.
Mike.
Oh, you got Luther Burden.
I got Luther Burden, 4-4-1.
4-4-1?
I don't think he's running 4-4-1. I think he's more of a 4-4-5 guy or 4-4-8 guy, something. He ain't running 4-4-1.
So I did not bet him because when I went back and when I watched and I wrote down all like top guys 40s, I wrote him exactly at 4-4-1. And
yeah,
so
I'll be surprised. If he runs 4-4-1, he's one of those guys that doesn't play to 4-4-1.
Yeah.
That's why I think he's going to go over that.
Okay. Leger?
Well, you stole my top one, so I'll go to my second one. Jahai Campbell, I'm going to go over 4-4-7 because if he runs a 4-4-7, my goodness, he might go top 10.
Yeah.
Now, he's fast. Mm-hmm. He's very fast, but I don't think people realize how fast 4-4-7. Like, a lot of receivers aren't even running 4-4-7. So I'm going to go over 4-4-7 for him.
I like that one because he did come in 235, though. Came in a little lighter than what he's listed at, but still, 235, there's just not a lot of guys who run that. And usually the ones that do, you're like, there's plays on tape where it's like, okay, wow, he just hawked a wide receiver.
Exactly.
It's like Peyton Wilson last year ran down guys from behind. It's like, okay, that's what a 4-4 looks like. I'm not sure I saw that in Campbell's tape. I agree. All right, mine, I'm not going to mention the D-line ones because they're going right now, but I do love Shamar Stewart. It started at 4.64.
Yeah.
It's down to 4.57. I think he's going under that, and he came in like 267. So he came to run fast. The one I do like, you watch his tape, and you just are in awe of this guy's speed. It's Arian Smith from Georgia, under 4.3. Feel very good about this guy running the 4.2s. He ran away.
Talk about the wide receiver who played it. Yeah, he played it. He was a track guy.
Yeah, I mean, his ability, when he just – it's not only just off the line, but some guys, the 40 is more about that last 20. Guys who have real blow-away speed.
Turnover.
He has – his ability in that last
And right now he looks
different.
more like a track guy playing football than a football guy playing track.
For sure.
Correct. Speaking of track guys, the 40 is overrated in my opinion. I think
100%.
we're going to get to the combine events. Which ones? We'll start with you, Pete. You don't have to rank them, but discuss like how you utilize the combine events, what you're looking for here over the course of this weekend.
Me personally,
yes.
I don't put a lot of stock in the numbers. I'm a tape guy. If for example, I just told you I think Luther Burden doesn't play to his 40 time if he runs 4.41. The tape tells you something different than what that 40 time is, and yet people are going to stand on that 40 time. I think the tape tells the story. Now, there are situations if you have a corner who plays press man and he runs 4.75, then you're going to have a problem there. Yeah. So from that standpoint, you can use the 40 time a little bit. If it's a negative, I don't think it positively is going to impact you going that way. But you don't want a corner playing 4.75 is going to be in your defensive play press man. So that concerns me a little bit. So, but most of the numbers, the shuttle, the short shuttle, all that stuff, look, they're important. I get it. I don't think they test the right things. I think, and I've had this talk with Smith that does the defensive line stuff, and he's always talked about Chuck Smith. Chuck's always talked about how they should change the testing for defensive linemen. And he actually had ways to do it, and they haven't done it yet, and they're still working on it. But I don't think you get a real gauge from these numbers on whether a guy can play. The most important thing here is two things, the medical and the interview. Yep. And I will say this about the interview. I think the guys nowadays are so prepped that even that has lost a lot of its luster.
Age is ruining the combine once.
They really do.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Jay, what about yourself?
Obviously, the interviews are very important, also the medical. But to me, I think the position-specific drills, like certain of them, not all of them, because a lot of them, I'm like you, Pete, that's not a football drill. Like, what are we doing here? But for me, more specifically for the defensive line, if somebody has, like, tight hips or they have ankle flexion issues, you can see it on some of the bag drills. That's why I think doing the bag drills are more important than running a straight line 40 because it somewhat simulates football. Right now, it doesn't 100% simulate, but if a guy is struggling on tape, being able to get to that edge and turn that foot and get around the corner, and then you see it again at the combine, well, maybe there's something medical there, right? And maybe he can't do it, right? So that's why I think the positional drills are way more important than anything that's timed here at all.
What about like a bend drill? Like
they kind of do the hoop,
but that's the hoop. But I'm talking about you put a bag like that's one of the drills that Chuck Smith did. He put the bag here and bend and time it from this point to that point. And so there's a lot of these aren't football drills. They're just agility drills. Like this.
To me, I think the most important thing, if I were just like one thing for like me personally, obviously I'm not in the interviews. I'm not privy to their medical stuff, but seeing verified heights, weights, arm lengths, that sort of thing. versus what they were listed at. Because Mason Graham came in today, the Michigan DT, listed at 320, 296. 32-inch arms.
Right.
It's like, that's a different guy. Those 320 is a nose tackle, 296 is a 3-tech. It's like, those are two different guys. So getting verified height, weight, arm length, that sort of thing. But then also how they test at that. And especially like tight ends a lot of the times is where I think that happens a lot. Defensive ends where, maybe a tight end comes here who's like an undersized tight end. They get up to 250, but it's bad weight. Or an undersized edge rusher. They put on bad weight and then they don't test like the athlete. And then it's like, can the guy put it on and still do it? So I think it's how big are they and can they maintain the athleticism at what they're showing up at?
Here's another thing, and they'd never agree this in a million years, but the best way to evaluate the passers, the receivers, and the corners is to have 7-on-7 drill inside the dome.
They're never going to do
They
it.
never would agree to that. Never would agree to that. But you got to admit,
exactly.
when you watch a quarterback throw, big deal, you watch him throw. If you watch him throw and he hit 7-on-7 against the best corners with the best receivers, then you're going to get a better gauge on whether the receiver is good, the corner's good, you can play coverage with him, what can you do, how does he react in the zone. To me, that's the best way to evaluate players. So it's hard to get an evaluation on those.
I would say they'd probably push back and say that's why we have all-star games for that.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
And now that everyone can go. Now that everyone
Yeah, but everybody can go, but nobody goes to the All-Star games. So you come here and make them do that. What if they said to him, you're not getting drafted unless you do it?
Ooh, there'd be a lot. There's a lot of red tape there.
Of course there is.
Everyone pulls a hamstring the first 5 minutes. That's what they would do.
Probably.
Yeah.
But you got to admit, that's the only way you can evaluate
it out.
I think you almost have to incentivize to be like, hey, $5K a guy or whatever to come here.
But
$5K a day, that's like a major pay cut from college.
Exactly. For NIL.
Back in the day, you could have got away with $5,000.
Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what would incentivize it. It's unfortunate what's happened to it that you really don't get to see these guys and guys opting out of their pro days too altogether. So,
do you guys ever remember the legend of Mike Mamula? Do you remember Mike? You guys are too young for that. Mike Mamula was a defensive end from Boston College and came here and tested like you wouldn't believe and made himself was going to be like a 3rd or 4th round pick at best. Ended up going, I think, top 15 in the draft and was never a good player. He's the ultimate lesson for what you don't do at the combine.
Who was Tony Mandrich?
Oh yeah, but Tony Mandrich is actually a good player and really a good player.
Vernon Golston's another one.
Yeah, Vernon Golston.
Yeah. So,
you know what they need a heart test for before we get out of here? See if your heart pumps Kool-Aid or not.
That's facts.
You got to be. That was the old adage. It was the old adage, right? If your heart pumped Kool-Aid, you weren't tough enough.
I didn't know. I've never heard that.
You never heard that? Yeah.